feel like that means you probably got more legal battles ahead, huh?
We'll see. I think a pardon is still a pardon at the end of the day. I think the best they could hope for would be to convict me and then not punish me. And you know what? If y'all want to do that, I'll say it right now. I'm looking forward to 3 months in court saying whatever I want. Come get me. I'm still here.
Well, you've got 2 layers of protection. You've got a pardon and a Supreme Court decision.
Yeah, I do, but they'll just come up with stuff. They always do. They hit me with that 9 more charges the last day before the weekend and Trump took office. So they were never going to stop. It is what it is.
And this is the U.S. attorneys doing this?
Yeah, the Biden DOJ. Now they're not doing it because it's the Trump DOJ. But the judge left this open. And I mean, if you read, and you should read this decision she published, it does not mean she actually called me a poor loser, which that doesn't sound like legal language again.
Or political language.
For real. So it's things are different. They're trying to do what they can. They're bitter, they're childish, and I've given it up on acting like things are normal some time ago. Y'all want to start this again? I'm right here.
Let's talk about what was lost for you with your time spent away.
Yeah. That I did 2 years, my 4-year sentence where I beat the case. So it's a hell of a thing to, when I left, my oldest son was a baby. Come out, he started preschool. My youngest son was born and I was in prison. So that's something to come home to, 2 years is a stretch, not nothing. And because you don't get treated normally, it's not just in court. The BOP has they get their kind of blood too. I was sent several states away, which is against BOP rules. I was sent to a higher security prison. I should have been in camp, aka white collar prison, minimum security. But you get upped with what's called a management variable. Sent up 1 level of security, and they made it hard. I mean, while I was in there, they manufactured more charges on me just through the BOP, throwing me in the hole. I lost 25 pounds there. The room's freezing cold. It's real bad. I didn't have a mattress for most of it.
It's so crazy. Listening to your story, listening to Joe Big's story. I mean, listening to all it's just common treatment at the BOP. People just don't hear about it.
Yeah, no, and I didn't get the worst of people. Like, they were harder on J6ers. They were harder on me than others. I did not have a normal experience. Straight up. But they had all kinds of tricks. Didn't happen to me, but some guys get what's called diesel therapy, which is about the worst thing. You are transported every several days or maybe after a week or two, but you can never get settled. And that sounds like more of an inconvenience, but it's not. It's a really terrible thing in your life. When you'll lose weight, you can't buy the basics of the commissary, you can't get clean. You are going to be shackled in physically uncomfortable, not just uncomfortable, but injurious positions for very long periods of time, and your body doesn't recover. You see guys who come out who really got the treatment. Like it, I mean, they hurt my health physically, but I don't need to breathe on me. You know what I mean? But there's guys in the game. They hurt people.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And it's, again, these are stories that I think now we can highlight talking about criminal justice reform, BOP reform, where, some of the other guys that might get injustice for the ghost drugs, the ghost dope charges that they get now, or other nonviolent crimes that people spend years in prison for, you just don't hear their stories because there's not really the human interest there. There's not the political interest there. Now, with these thousands of political prisoners, you're starting to hear about these conditions. You're starting to hear about some of these treatments. And I do think there can be real momentum behind criminal justice and BOP reform. It has to be done. I mean, it absolutely has to be done. The situation in these prisons, especially with nonviolent offenders rotting away, missing the birth of their kids. I mean, I don't know if you care to describe what that is like.
Yeah, you see it. Like there's certain crimes have such extreme penalties.
Morning, Brandon.
Like guys who just smoke meth, not a great thing to do. But guys who get the tweaker lifestyle end up doing some 15 years so easy. It's just why you do what you got. You know what I mean? But I'll say this: the prison reform has been noticed. Prison is Trump country. Like I came there with my reputation. That wasn't a problem. People know the First Step Act. They know that for the first time in decades, someone actually do care.
You know, it's crazy you say that because it seems so antithetical when you think about prisoners, right? But I mean, until you see it yourself, it's hard to explain. Most of it, from my experience, now when you're in a low, every once in a while there's a guy that's worked his way down through his sentences. Every once in a while there's a person that does belong in there. They'll even admit it, committing violent crimes, robbery, stuff like that. And they'll admit that they belong in there. They got caught. But a lot of these are just dope charges. There's some very small financial charges. People in there that were basically trying to stand up to the corrupt medical system, that they get hit with some strange obscurity in a medical crime. They end up spending years and they can't get out. I mean, you hear the craziest stories and you realize, yeah, most of these guys probably don't even belong in there.
Yeah, it's, as I said, it overcharged. Like, America, a lot of people might do something that can land you in prison. We got some hooligans in this country. But to just keep guys there for as long as they do, it's sad. Most people in prison, I believe, should not be in prison.
And I think that once, and maybe with the January 6th testimonies, once people really grasp that, because it's a hard thing to think it's that corrupt. It's a hard thing to think that until you've actually been inside and seen it. And I mean, it's literally dads and grandpas sitting around watching TV. Like, wouldn't even harm a fly. Most of them probably have more integrity than you go out and meet a liberal on the street. Probably have more integrity than a street liberal. So, maybe these stories can shed a little light and get a little momentum, but the motivation for conviction and incarceration in the system has to change. It has to be justice, and right now that just doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't, but I think it's coming around. I think that not just the J6 thing, but really on the right, there's been a sort of a noticing that we can care about this too.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a leftist issue where we're putting violent criminals back on the streets. There's a real conservative issue that can be had here and bring some success when it comes to criminal justice reform. Nick Oakes, thank you for your time. Glad to see you out and back with your family. Of course, man. Thank you for coming on. All right, so we're going to be hearing more of these stories, folks. And I said it, when I came out, I said criminal justice reform is going to be a major issue of mine. And now the iron is hot. And now we can bring a lot of light to these issues. Now, I'm grateful that it's Wednesday, January 29, 2025, and InfoWars is still on the air. The legal battles are ongoing. We are still on the air
Thursday,
right now.
so this is from yesterday.
And we'd like to see that sustained in the future as the legal battle continues. Great way to support us, obviously, shopping at thealexjonesstore.com. The great supplements, the t-shirts, the hats, the hoodies, everything, very popular stuff. Other stuff, we have banners now, flags, just all.
And where to send the book. And you gotta pay for shipping, a couple dollars. But they'll give it to you for free after that. Unbreakable Investor by Charles Payne. Text the word Mike to the number 505-505.
SiriusXM Patriot presents Breitbart News Daily with your host, Mike Slater.
Yeah, I can't get over the fact that we had so many experts call in starting at 5 a.m. Central Time today. From every single light, we had air traffic control, we had helicopter pilots, we had regional jet pilots, we had people who are safety investigator, post-incident safety, with every single person in the gamut call in and help us in such a measured, like it was so encouraging, not just for the sake of the show, but for the sake of the country, that there are people, every single caller called in, not only what they said, but how they said it. Their entire approach to this is very encouraging. So thank you to everyone who called in, and I'll never forget today. This is really special. My other takeaway is how difficult it is to do anything, and just how much we take for granted. Oh yeah, airplanes landing. You know? Listening to the pilots talk about how all the things that need to be taken into effect. You know, I mentioned the guy, there's some survey, and we asked men if the airplane pilot passed out, could you land the plane? And like 95% of men are like, yeah, no problem. You know, and I asked that to the guy, he's like, yeah, no, you couldn't. You couldn't land the plane. And even air traffic controllers, you know, we talked a lot about today, and we will tomorrow, because I found the questions. You know, the quality of air traffic controllers, and that's in the questioning, the DEI and stuff like that. But man, that's a tough job too. It's a miracle that anything ever works. And we take it so for granted that when something doesn't. How could this happen? They're still search and rescue right now. 26 bodies have been pulled from the water is the last number I saw. No one alive. Terrible tragedy. Keep it here on 6XM. Of course, Breitbart.com. We're covering it throughout the day. Thanks, Dave. Breitbart News Daily.
vehicles and planes around you, and at a certain point in time, the computers take over and they will tell you to either go up or down, and you have to do what that computer tells you to do. So there could be
many moving pieces in this thing on both of the aircraft that to speculate at this point, it's just ridiculous.
But you got so much traffic in that area too.
Yep.
But at 3 o'clock in the morning, you shouldn't have had that much traffic.
It happened at 8 o'clock last night.
Oh, it was 8 o'clock last night. Okay,
Yeah.
I heard it happened like at 3 o'clock in the morning.
No.
But anyhow, yeah, I didn't even go on the news and pay attention to what they tell you there. I went right to my source, and he was the one that was telling me that, you know, they do have transponders tracking everything, and they will automatically come on and tell you, you know, either go up or go down, and you have to obey what that's telling you. And
and like you said, this is a busy air corridor. You can only fly, because it's Washington, D.C., there are specific, I think it was called TRF or TFR, that you have to follow. You just can't go where you want over Washington, D.C. There are specific routes that you have to stay on so that you're not flying over government buildings and things like that. And both of these vehicles, both of these aircraft appear to be doing what they were supposed to do, at least up until seconds before the collision.
But to have two objects in the universe occupy the same space at the same time, that's kind of hard to do.
Yeah,
I fly RC airplanes, and they do hit each other. But if you go up there and try and hit each other, it's kind of hard to do.
It is, and I appreciate the call, and I'm gonna hold off until I see what the black boxes and the air traffic control and the people who actually do this for a living have to say. Not what some guy on Facebook decides is a coincidence, or isn't this happening a lot, or funny, it just happened only a few days after President Trump took office. Shut up.
The holidays are over, and the new year is here, making it the perfect time to think about the future. More specifically, it's the perfect time to think about your financial future. Right now, Howard Bailey Financial is offering a free retirement toolkit, a comprehensive guide designed to help you plan, save, and jumpstart the retirement you deserve. To get your free copy today, text FUTURE to
Nope.
Morning, Dirty.
National Airport killed a helicopter in a fiery crash that sent both into the water.
These responders found extremely frigid conditions. They found heavy wind. They found ice on the water, and they're operated all night in those conditions.
Washington, D.C. Fire Chief John Donnelly says it's gone from a rescue to recovery mission. They found one of the 3 soldiers from the helicopter. 27 of the 64 people on the plane.
The fuselage of the American airline plane was inverted. It's been located in 3 different sections.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says it was a clear night. Both the plane and helicopter were on standard flight paths. They don't know what went wrong yet.
Sean Duffy is not saying whether communication played a factor in terms of who's communicating with what and was there miscommunication as to this plane coming in. And we do know that the helicopter pilot did know there was a plane in the area on final approach.
Fox Business Network's Edward Lawrence at Reagan National Airport. American Airlines CEO Robert Isom says,
We're absolutely heartbroken for the family and loved ones of the passengers and crew members, and also for those that were on the military aircraft.
the plane was coming in from Wichita, Kansas. Some of the passengers were from the U.S. figure skating team. In a half hour, Kash Patel goes under scrutiny, the Trump nominee to be FBI director. Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, a Republican, supports him, telling Fox,
only 41% of the people have confidence in the FBI, and that means that the public is irritated because the FBI has been used as a political instrument.
Tulsi Gabbard will also face tough questions in another Senate hearing as Director of National Intelligence nominee. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has his second hearing to spar senators again in line to lead Health and Human Services. America's listening to Fox News.
It is time to take the quiz.
5 days a week, it's 5 questions in less than 5 minutes. We ask people on the streets of New York City to play along. Let's see how you do.
What are the 2 active volcanoes on mainland Europe called?
Is Vesuvio one of them?
Vesuvius and Etna.
How'd you do? Exactly. These get tougher, so hang on.
Take the quiz every weekday at thequiz.talk. Then come back here to see how you did. Thank you for taking the quiz.
As President Donald Trump begins his second term,
Promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises.
stick with the Fox News rundown as made during his first 100 days. Whether it impacts your
With 64 souls on board, we'll have updates throughout the show. Various officials now begin to speak in different aspects of the FAA, the Department of Transportation, Secretary newly confirmed Sean Duffy, and others, Muriel Bowser, the D.C. mayor, and officials in Wichita, Kansas. There's really not a lot to report, except that it has gone from a rescue to a recovery mission and a crash into the frozen waters of the Potomac, especially at the time in the dark. Just an incredibly horrible circumstance and set of circumstances. I see a lot of the stuff out there on X, and we begin to hear from the experts, as in XPERTS, just stop. We don't have enough information. So I'll just put a pin in that, and if something significant comes through beyond what we've seen reported, we'll let you know. There's a lot of other things on the table, of course. The hearings continue down on the Hill. The Senate confirmation hearings continue. And 3, arguably, of the biggest hearings, they're all important, but there's expected to be a significant amount of heat today with the hearings for Pam Bondi, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and Howard Lutnick. So there's going to be some of that. The goal here, of course, is to see what happens. The hearing for Pam Bondi set to begin minutes ago at 9 a.m. So let's keep an eye on that, guys. We also have 10 a.m. Robert Kennedy Jr. and Howard Lutnick. So a lot going on. And then just to wrap, before we get into other issues, where the show's been for the last 3 days at the Congressional Institute's 2025 Members Issues Conference. The Speaker of the House there, President and the Vice President coming in to speak as well. But the real work being done by the Congress members, the leaders, some 200 who went to Trump rally right here in Florida. And the goal, of course, to come out with the America First agenda to work towards a reconciliation package and to find a path forward with a slim majority of the House and even some reticent Republicans who would rather give Democrats the advantage rather than moving the ball forward under President Trump's task. Frankly, the demand that you and I, the American people, have voted for. So there's a lot to still happen there, and there's a deadline coming in March. There is so much on the table that not the first 100 days, the first week was a frenetic set of activities and executive orders and actions being taken, such as the rounding up of criminal illegals, and now Congress has to settle in, do its job correctly. You get a bite at the apple with the reconciliation package, which will not require the supermajority in the Senate. And as I discussed with a number of congressmen on and off air, that yes, there may be other bites, but you need to get this first one done. There are a lot of issues on the table. There are a lot of differences of opinion. The one opinion is moving the America First policy agenda forward. That's the one that matters. And that's where your alignment needs to be vis-a-vis Ronald Reagan. My 80% friend is not my 20% enemy. And let's be realistic about Congress, that purity tests don't work. They just don't. They're good ideas. You want things to be perfect. They don't work in the practical world in Washington, D.C., or just about any of the practical world for that matter. And that may not be the feel-good, the feel-good thing that we all want. But if you want to feel good, talk to a politician. If you want results, deal with reality. Very straightforward. Very, very straightforward. On immigration and sanctuary cities, Representative Gabe Evans.
Actually, more of a on time start. I'm chronically late. I try to get there by 9. But because I spent so many days past 5. It's not a big deal. Yeah, usually. But yeah, earlier start, but more on time. Still late, but only 15 minutes late. But yeah, I know.
State law said that state and local law enforcement can no longer honor an ICE immigration detainer. 2021 state law doubled down on that and said you cannot share state data for the purposes of enforcing any sort of immigration laws in Colorado. And then in 2023, there was a third state law that again doubled down and said state and local governments are not even allowed to enter into agreements with immigration and customs for the purposes of enforcing immigration. And so it really puts our local governments in a bind because state law, they run afoul of state law if they try to coordinate with immigration and customs. We saw this very recently in Aurora, Colorado, where Aurora cracked down and was able to arrest a bunch of Tren de Aragua members. And they're already under threat of a suit from the ACLU for potentially violating these state laws. And so what Congress needs to do is step in and first of all say, as you said, this is a supremacy issue. The Article 6 of the Constitution says the Constitution and all the laws made in accordance thereof are the supreme law of the land. And Congress needs to be able to exert its authority to say that a state and local government cannot run contrary to these simple directives around protecting the territorial integrity of the United States and holding people accountable who break those laws, illegally enter our country, and then go on to continue committing other crimes.
Let me run through the list, and I'm going to do this because I want to hear from you. We didn't have much of a chance to talk to the listeners. We were able to get a few in, but when you have have that many interviews, that many Congress members, and the focus is there, you don't get to weigh in. And you've heard these issues, and maybe something stuck with you, and that tends to happen. Day one, the GOP conference chair, Lisa McClain from Michigan's 9th district, Brian Babin from Texas 36, who introduced a bill to end birthright citizenship. Things really, ramped up. John McGuire, freshman Virginia 5, that was on day 2. Burgess Owens, Utah 4, especially on education and workforce. Mike Haradopoulos, Florida 8. James Comer, the congressman, and I talked about House oversight and their responsibilities. I know a lot of you have questions about follow-through on on a various set of issues, whether it be sanctuary cities, oversight on the J6 committee, oversight on so many things. And that's, of course, the congressman from Kentucky. Beth Van Dyne from Texas, Gabe Evans from Colorado, Colorado's 8th district, Bill Timmons, he said he's William, not Bill, from South Carolina, Jack Burke and the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, and the economic issues, someone who is right at the forefront of House financial, House budget, Mario Diaz-Balart and Carlos Jimenez from Florida. Those are your representatives. And as a result of this conference, the forward movement is to get this done, to get reconciliation done. And there was discussion even of DOGE and what's needed there in order to clean up this bureaucratic nightmare, this bureaucratic cesspool in Washington, D.C., and make sure that you have the right people in place.
You guys have a good day, too. Peace. I'll see you in a bit, maybe. We'll see.
So to eliminate duplicative